Okay, Mr. Chair, we are recording. I am having some issues with the live streaming with YouTube, but we can proceed because the meeting's being recorded, and I'm just going to work on the back end, and I'll let you know as soon as it's live. But we can update a YouTube post recording.
Okay, I don't see Sherry back in yet, though.
She is here. She's just coming into the meeting.
Okay, good. And Anita, I don't see Anita either.
Yeah, she's here as well. She's just coming in.
Okay. Okay, there's Sherry, and Anita is coming right in.
And Mr. Mayor, I believe you noted is Councillor Heron not arriving today?
Councillor Heron is 45 minutes delayed, so.
Okay.
So we will start without. Please allow the minutes to record that, and then when he joins us, we'll record that too. And did our guests get back in?
Yes, they are all here. They're just coming into the room.
Okay, so I can call the meeting to order then, I guess, right?
That's correct. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thanks for your patience.
Thank you. Okay, everybody, I'm going to call to order our regular council meeting of Tuesday, February the 8th. And I'm going to begin with our land acknowledgement. We respectfully acknowledge that we are on the treaty and traditional territory of the Mississauga and Ashbeg. We offer our gratitude to the First Peoples for their care for and teachings about our earth and our relations. May we honor those teachings. And I would ask that we please observe a moment of silence so that council, staff, and members of the public can quietly reflect on our duty to the community that we are trying to serve. Thank you. Members of the public, staff, presenters, and members of council, please be advised that meetings are broadcast and recorded and made available on the internet. Is there any declaration of pecuniary interest in the general nature thereof? Please note that there was none noted. We'll go first to our minutes. We have both the 18th of January and our special council meeting on the 27th. Sherry, moving both? Need a seconding both? All those in favor? Carried. Any business arising at the minutes? Not seeing any. We will go to delegations. And Sonia, I think I saw you, and Jeff, you're here as well on our screen. So thank you very much. We'd like to keep our presentations to around 10 minutes if you're able to do that, and then I'll open it up to council members to ask any questions. So welcome.
Well, thank you, Mayor Mitchell and Council. Thank you so much for having us this evening. We really appreciate the opportunity. Joining me are my colleagues, Miranda Pilon, Jeff Mantej, and Amanda Toms. And I know we only have 10 minutes to present, so we don't want to waste too much time, and we'll just kick it off. Perhaps, if you don't mind, we can take 30 seconds and we can do a quick, we'll do some quick introductions. I'll kick it off. I'm Sonia Fazeri, Senior Advisor, Municipal Affairs, and I'm supporting the project, this fabulous project. We're very excited to bring natural gas to the Township of Selwyn, and I'll be supporting the project from a municipal stakeholder perspective. So certainly if there's anything that your respective teams need, I'm here to support and assist and guide you in any way we can. So I will pass the virtual mic over to Miranda Pilon. You're on mic.
Technical difficulties there. Thank you, Sonia, for the quick introduction of yourself. So my name is Miranda Pilon. I am the project lead or project manager on this project. I've been with Enbridge Gas for almost 6 years or so, and I've been in a couple of different departments and worked with various groups internally and externally as well. So I've worked with a couple of the authorities in the area, like Autonomy Region Conservation and Kawartha Conservation, and I'm really happy to be working with you as well on this project. So again, I don't want to take up too much time because we've got a presentation to get to, but I'm the PL. I'm kind of leading the project with support of many on this. I don't know, Sonia, if you want to have Jeff give a quick intro next.
Sure. I'm Jeff Manty. I'll be the construction manager on the project. So anything that, any complaints that way, let Sonia know and we'll get on them right away. And yeah, I've been at Enbridge almost 17 years now. Most of my career has been through construction management, operations, or financials. So thanks.
And I'll go next. So hi, everyone. My name's Amanda Toms. I am a senior advisor within the community expansion team. So I will be supporting Miranda as she manages this project going forward, offering expertise in the planning and design portion of the project. I recently worked on the Scugog Island expansion project, so that was successfully executed, and definitely excited to continue working in new communities and bringing natural gas to new areas.
Sonia, you're on mute there.
Yeah, thank you for that, Miranda. So we've prepared a very short slide deck, but certainly if there's any questions from council, please jump in, and we're here to answer any questions that you may have. So Miranda, I'm going to just pass it over to you, and why don't we kickstart the presentation?
Sure. Okay, so we'll start with a project overview. You can see the map on the right side here. The preliminary preferred route for the project will involve installing about 8.4 kilometers of 2 and 6 inch NPS or nominal pipe size pipe, which will be located primarily within the road allowance of 8th line. The proposed route will tie into our existing system at the intersection of 8th line and Selwyn Road and will continue east to Buckhorn Road. And the proposed route is shown in that map there, as I mentioned, which is expected to bring gas to approximately 77 new customers, 54 residential and 23 commercial properties.
And moving on to the notice of commencement. So as part of our project planning process, we actually advertise a virtual open house, and it's being held for 2 weeks. Started off February the 3rd, and it finishes up February the 28th. So basically what we've done is we've promoted this virtual open house in the Lakefield Herald and also the Peterborough this week. And part of the purpose of the virtual open house is an opportunity for the community to participate in the development of the project. We want to hear from the community. We want to understand what are some of the project concerns, questions. And so this is an opportunity for the community to participate and be engaged in the development of the project. Again, it's an online forum. Unfortunately, as a result of COVID and the pandemic, typically we would have an open house in person right in the community, but as a result of the ongoing COVID, we've started doing virtual open houses. And again, it's an opportunity to really engage and get in touch with the community and work with everyone involved. So we have here, the link to access the Selwyn Community Expansion Project. And again, a lot of this information is already on our website as well. And this is part of our leave to construct application process. And so again, we gather all this information. It's part of the application that we plan to submit to the Ontario Energy Board. And here's just a sample of what the newspaper ads look like. So yeah, just to give you a good perspective. And it also, it also provides a direct contact for anyone should they feel the need to reach out directly to our environmental planner, a link to access the virtual open house, and just some project specific information in general. Yeah. So Amanda, Miranda, I think this one is over to you.
Yep. So you mentioned our LTC application, Sonia, there. So we are on track to file our LTC application for this project in May. And following the public hearing and LTC approval, our construction is anticipated to start late this year. We are consulting with several First Nations, including Alderville First Nations, Curve Lake First Nations, Hiawatha First Nations, Huron-Wendat First Nations, Kawartha Anishinaabe, and the Mississauga of Scugog Islands First Nations as well, as listed here. As the project progresses, we will continue to consult with those Indigenous communities on a regular basis, including participation in our archaeological fieldwork. Stage 1 of that archaeological fieldwork is currently underway and will be completed in March or April. And the results from that stage 1 will determine if stage 2 is required. And if so, then we will kind of roll that out as well. So when we are considering a pipeline project such as this one, we take into consideration several factors to determine the pipeline route. Some of the main ones are listed on this slide here. So we consider these items and implement mitigation and protection measures accordingly. So for example, limiting impacts to traffic where possible and implementing suitable traffic control plans, working around applicable timing windows for activities like vegetation removal, designing, constructing, and testing pipelines to meet or exceed the industry requirements and regulatory requirements. Utilizing horizontal directional drill, a trenchless technology in environmentally sensitive areas to minimize disturbance, or installing erosion sediment controls, which may include the use of exclusionary fencing where necessary. So all of this is taken into consideration, among other things as well, when we're planning a project to make sure that we're really focusing on the main impacts and limiting those where we can. Our geotechnical consultant, Golder, will be completing our geotechnical program for this project, which is scheduled to begin in the spring. We'll need to get some permits in place before we begin any of the work. And we're also waiting for the snow to get lost. So it's kind of pending on that, but that's kind of the plan. We're scheduled for early spring right now. The boreholes will be located within the road allowance along the shoulder of the road. And the main purpose is really to assess the ground conditions and collect soil samples, information that feeds more or less directly into the overall project design, so that we've really considered all the factors, not just above ground, what we can see, but what's below ground as well. And some of those boreholes will be temporarily converted into groundwater monitoring wells, which will be decommissioned or and backfilled to match the existing surrounding grade once the project is complete. I think this one's yours, Sonia. Oh, you're on mute. Oh, Sonia, we can't hear you.
Thank you. Oh my goodness, sorry about that.
No
So
problem.
in addition to engaging Golder, we've also brought in JD Barnes, and they'll be responsible for ongoing field work throughout the year in your community, and they'll be conducting surveys. So again, we just want to let you know, and certainly the community members know, that if you do see, Enbridge trucks, Golder trucks, Stantec, JD Barnes, this is all, they're there to compile and execute some of the preliminary surveys that we need to get done for this project. So there's no, we just want to make sure they're non-invasive surveys. And really this part of this work scope includes mapping above ground features, property lines, verifying subsurface utilities. So doing all that good work that we're going to pull together and include in the environmental report that's required for the leave to construct application with the OEB. Okay. And our proposed timeline. So over to you, Miranda.
Yep. So this is really high level. Q1, Q2 of this year, we're working on the archaeological assessment, the geotech. That's kind of what we're focusing on right now, because all of that stuff is required for our LTC application. Throughout the rest of the year, we're continuing with our consultation with all of the stakeholders internally and externally that are impacted by the project or have interest, and as well as project design and planning occurring this year, which is already underway. We've kind of got the ball rolling on that. So hopefully we'll be kind of ahead of the game on getting the drawings out for permits and all that stuff. We are, as mentioned, the LTC application will be filed in May of this year, so Q2. And we're looking at, just based on the OEB's timelines, we'll be receiving approval in October. And then following that, with a little bit of time for locates and other construction activities or pre-construction activities, the actual construction of the project will begin in Q4 of this year. Very high level, as we're still working through some things. Some of our specific dates do change a little bit, but generally speaking, this high level schedule is pretty good with this project as it's going so far. We're moving along well.
That's great. Thanks, Miranda. And that concludes our presentation. It's short and sweet, but I hope it provided a nice overview of some of the work that we're going to start doing in the community and an overview of the project scope. So I'll just pause there for a moment and I'll over to you, Mayor and Council and staff, if there's any questions.
I'm sure there will be. So I see Sherry has her hand up first, then Anita, and then Donna.
Okay.
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Mayor. I know there are business people and residents that are looking forward to this with great anticipation. And I want to thank you and your team again for all that you've done on this, and give a shout out to our Economic Development and Business Committee,
Yes.
who also were kind of driving the bus on this, for their participation. So when you put this through, will we effectively have a natural gas line from Lakefield to Bridgenorth?
Yeah, that's the goal. As for the specifics of the system as to where it ties in and whatnot, I'm sure that's kind of nitty gritty. That's not all that important to you, but yes, we will go from Lakefield to Bridgenorth to pick up all of those properties along 8th line there. And we do have a couple of little offshoots to pick up those other customers really close to 8th line as well. We're trying to maximize what we can.
Okay, thank you very much again.
Mm-hmm.
Sherry, Anita?
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair, and thank you for the presentation. Very interesting. So you were talking about the virtual information sessions. So I'm just curious, and I'm assuming you have or will be doing, there's the 54 residential and 23 commercial. Are they going to be contacted directly either through mail or through phone calls, just to see what their interest is?
Yeah, at this point, we're focused on our environmental studies and getting things kind of moving that way. So residents in the area, people in the area might see our consultants and contractors in and around. The virtual open house is more geared towards collecting comments and questions about that environmental work. But sometime in the summer, I think around June-ish, it might be a little bit sooner. I'm still trying to work out the timeline, but sometime in the summer we'll have more of a customer facing kiosk. So there will be a notice sent out for customers to let them know some more information about what's going to be happening in the area and how they can apply for gas.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we've got a dedicated group called Customer Attachment, and they're ready and ready to knock on doors. But at this point in time, we're concentrating on developing the environmental report and the leave to construct application. So it's certainly all these steps come in phases. But I did want to just say that we're more than happy on behalf of Enbridge to perhaps schedule quarterly touch point calls and keep everyone apprised of, certain milestones, upcoming work, and really just keep the dialogue open. And I know, I'm sure you're going to be stopped, at the local grocery store. When am I getting gas? Am I getting gas? So, we also want to arm, yourself, Mayor Mitchell, and council and your team with information that you can, share with your constituents as well.
Thank you. Donna?
Yes, thank you very much for the presentation, and this will be very well received by both residents and businesses. And I think this question has actually been answered, but I was just concerned about Kingdon Lumber, which is a little bit back from the 8th line. I'm sure that they'll be able to hook in.
I believe there was a separate project handled by our regional team that dealt with extending the gas main that was already in Lakefield to get the Timber Kingdon Mart set up with gas. So I don't think that's necessarily in scope of this project because I believe they already have gas, but maybe Jeff, if you have any extra information on that particular customer, then you can provide that here.
I'm just looking it up because I think the property will be covered from 2 sides soon. So that's
Right.
just gonna
Mr.
see if I
Mayor,
can confirm that.
Yeah,
Mr.
Andy?
Mayor, I can answer that question. Yeah, the Kingdon Lumber is on the gas line. It was extended specifically for them. They actually covered the cost.
Okay, thanks, Angie. Okay, just before we let you go, I had a couple of questions. First of all, to echo the Deputy Mayor in thanking Enbridge for making this investment in our community. It could have gone to a lot of different places, so we're appreciative that it's coming to Selwyn. And to thank all of the people that Sherry thanked, but I also want to thank Sherry because she's been a big proponent of this as well. But a couple of questions. So you're looking at getting started in Q4, and the way regulatory processes go, that's a target, not fixed in stone just yet. But once you start, how long do you figure it takes to complete to get it all in?
That's a really good question. At this point, if we are able to start construction before the end of this year, then we should have the main installed or be able to start attaching customers by about the middle of next year.
Okay, so about Q2 of 2023.
Approximately, yeah.
Yeah.
End of ish, Q2-ish.
Yeah, okay. So it takes about 9 to 12 months to get it done.
Approximately, yeah. For a project of this size, that's what we're looking at.
Okay, second question. When you're doing the work in the road allowance, is it very disruptive to traffic movement, or are you basically off to the side?
I think Jeff might have a little bit more knowledge on this one, but typically we try and avoid impacts to traffic wherever we can. And whenever we do have to impact traffic, we would implement a traffic control plan right from the Ontario management book. So they're robust plans that really take into consideration the flow of traffic and all of the driveways, the customers and all that stuff in the area. So where we have to impact traffic, we always have one of those really robust plans. And if we find that a plan from the standard book doesn't fit, then we'll get a site-specific plan that really takes into account all of those factors to minimize the impacts to the surrounding residents and customers.
Yeah, I'm thinking particularly in our township on a long weekend in summer, Friday afternoon work
Yes.
will not be your best choice if you have to interrupt traffic patterns.
Yeah, we try and take that into consideration with the vacation and long weekends and stuff like that. But Jeff, go ahead if you have something to add there.
Yeah, this project, I'm familiar with the traffic that goes through there on a long weekend. We'd likely be shutting down those Fridays, just because it's the volumes that we get. This project, there'll be minimal shutdowns. Any kind of road closures would be very temporary for us to get some work done. But most of the work will be on the edge of the pavement. So traffic will be flowing for the most part, but just a lot of the intersection type work is where we get some slowdowns.
Thank you. And my last question, and you may not be able to be really specific on this, but if I'm a residential customer and I'm on the 8th line and I want to hook up, excluding any costs for equipment that I would need to buy, like a furnace or anything like that, the actual cost of hooking up, is there a ballpark amount that you're able to say?
At this point, we don't have that information just yet, but Sonia did allude to our customer connections, customer attachment team, and they have tools in place to kind of price out the services based on the loads, based on the distance, based on several factors that kind of go a little bit beyond me. But so we don't have that information quite yet, but we would be working towards that information for the time that the customers apply.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So, and I just want to add to that, Mayor Mitchell, we have a very robust customer attachment program where we're quite successful in terms of outreach to the community and making sure that there's an ongoing dialogue. So if customers, potential future customers have questions, our customer attachment team will make it very, very accessible and easy to reach out and have those conversations. So as we progress with the project development, I think this is going to be one key element that we certainly want to meet with council again before we roll out the customer attachment program and just bring you all up to speed in terms of next steps.
Thank you. Thank you, Sonia. Rick, did you have a comment?
No, I didn't have anything, no.
Okay, I just noticed that you were off mute, so.
Yeah.
I thought you
No,
might have had a comment.
sorry.
Okay, no problem. Okay, well, I think that completes it. So again, our thanks and thank you for being proceeding in an open and transparent and engaging way with our ratepayers. That's very much appreciated. Let's keep in touch. We're happy to have you bring an update when that's appropriate. And we look forward to the project proceeding and being completed. So thank you.
Oh, you're very welcome. Thank you so much, Your Worship and Council, for the opportunity this evening. And please reach out if there is anything or any questions that you have in the meantime. I know your colleagues have my contact information, so we're here to assist in any way we can.
Okay, thank you. And I'll look for a motion to receive that from Anita, seconded by Donna. All those in favor? Thank you. Okay, we will now.
Oh, Mr. Mayor, sorry.
Yes.
Sorry to interrupt. I'm just wondering if you wouldn't mind deferring the public meeting for a little bit. We're just trying to see if we can get the meeting to live stream. Even though we don't have anybody registered for the housekeeping, there may be those that want to listen in. So
Sure.
We're just going to see if we can get that solved. So if we could just ask for a little bit of extra time, we could move on to the agenda. And then I just wanted to let you know as well that Councillor Heron has confirmed that he will not be attending at all this evening.
Okay, thank you for the update. And our guests, you're welcome to stay, but you're also welcome to sign off and go off to the other things that you need to do. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Appreciate
Bye,
it.
everyone.
Bye.
Bye. Okay, given that we're going to defer item 3B, or sorry, 2B, we'll go on to question period. Was there anybody who registered for a question, Madam Clerk?
No questions.
Okay, then we'll move on to our municipal officers and staff reports. And we have our treasurer to give us our Psap report. Elaine.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We have the Psap compliance report before council tonight. This essentially is the end of the 2022 budget process. It's kind of a dry report, which council sees on an annual basis, but it does take it from a more or less a cash-based budget to a Psap compliant budget. The compliance report, which is attached, just kind of takes the budget document and ensures that it's comparable when we look at our consolidated financial statement. So really not too much to add. The report is fairly standard, but I would respond to any questions the council may have.
Thank you, Elaine. Any questions? Anita?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you for the report as well, Lane. I'm just wondering, when will we know the county and the education portions for the combined tax?
Thank you for that question. So through you, Mr. Mayor, we do know the education rates at this point in time. I think county council will be considering some possible changes to tax ratios in either later this month or the first part of March. I may just ask one of the county council reps if they do have an update on that, but typically we won't know that ratio until the end of March.
Yeah, we haven't even settled on the budget yet. So we're hoping like next week, I think, Sherry, we'll get the budget, but the tax ratio is another report that has to come. And I don't think that's scheduled until March, as Maine points out. Okay, any other questions? And we need a motion to adopt. So the motion, we're looking to adopt the budget and the PSAP compliance report, correct? Yeah, okay, Sherry? And seconded by Anita. All those in favor? Carry. Okay, good. That's what you needed, right, Lee?
That's correct. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, very good. Okay, we're now into consent items. Does anybody want to pull a consent item? Donna?
The Peterborough County Report number 3.
Okay.
I think that's all.
Report 3. Okay, was anybody else? I don't see any, but I wanted to pull the first the report on the fire department. So I'll put that one down. So that would be 5A. Okay, and I think that's it. Okay, good. So we'll just go in order. So I'll do 5A first. I see the chief is there. Chief, I just had a question with all of the COVID restrictions that you've had to put deal with in the last 2 years. Have we accumulated a sort of a training deficit, or have you been able to keep up using? I know folks have used that online platform very, very well, but I'm just curious as to whether there's been we've been able to maintain and keep up to date on the training, or whether once we're able to all assemble in person, you're going to have a little bit of catch up to do.
Actually, Mayor Mitchell, training has been phenomenal. We have, again, we have Mike Goebel, which is well trained as a teacher, and WebEx and everything else. So we've had phenomenal people coming into every training session, more so than you might get live at some nights that they have to come in and whatnot. So we did run a bit of a deficit this year with training, but that's because we actually had probably close to 88 to 89% of our firefighters showing up to training. And when we did last summer get into the small groups, again, that was overwhelming because, again, that's that hands-on that we didn't have for a few months. And, you know, again, we're coming into small training groups this year, and the firefighters have unbelievable that what show up online. So it's been good. It's trial and tribulation, and you know, Mike Goebel's done a phenomenal job, and hats off to him for what he's done.
Excellent. Thank you, Gord. Donna, you had a question about the Peterborough County report.
Yes, it's on the part about the official plan. And my first question was going to be, could staff do a bit of a summary for us about how it would affect Selwyn? But I have found out since that they're in the process of doing that. But I just wondered, I don't have this opened up, so I don't know when the comment period is ended. Does anybody know? And as long as we get that summary report before that.
It's in the middle of March, I believe. It's because we put it out for 60 days in the middle of January, but Mr. Kelly, you may know that, or Perry, you may know that.
Yeah, it's Perry here. So yes, Your Worship. March 8th is the due date. However, we're proposing to bring the summary report to council on March 8th, and the county planning department has said it's okay for us to submit our comments by the end of the week of March 8th.
Okay, thanks, Per. And I just have one other comment about the official plan or question, and I'm not sure if any of our new people have sat in on the official plan meetings, because they have been going on for a long time. But in the provincial policy statement and the places to grow, they're always so concerned about conserving agricultural land to produce food into the future. And we're having a fair number of farms converted into growing cannabis, which is not food. And I just wondered if that has ever been discussed. And maybe our two planners here do not know. Rob Lamar may know, but that is a concern to me because right now there is one farm that's being converted to growing cannabis in Ennismore, another potential one, and then a rural property. So that's a fair bit of land in a small part of the municipality. I don't know if it's ever been discussed. I know it's a provincial policy statement and the feds make the cannabis rules. But
I don't know, Robert or Per, did you have any comments on that?
Yes, Your Worship. I can partially answer that question. With regard to cannabis, it is an agricultural crop, so it's permitted as of right as to grow it outdoors. That's reflected in our current zoning bylaw as well, where the stipulation comes in with further controls is on indoor cultivation and packaging and things like that. Then we get into zoning amendments and site plan control. So that's from a local perspective. Provincially as well, it's at the provincial level, it's recognized as well as an agricultural crop. So I'm not aware of any additional protections for food crop as opposed to cannabis being grown. In terms of the meetings, I myself have only been involved in the technical advisory committee group since coming to Selwyn. So the specific topic of cannabis, I don't recall being discussed at the few meetings that I was in attendance. So I couldn't tell you any further about what may or may not have been discussed there. There is meetings to the technical advisory committee meetings that are posted on the county website that could be referenced to see what may have been discussed, at least in summary format.
so could you possibly, would that be too much for you to research and put in your report for March the 8th to see if that was even discussed?
You're muted, Per.
Sorry, am I unmuted now?
Good now.
Through you, Your Worship. Yes, Donna, I can put in some extra bit into the cannabis. There is already some comments I'm making into the official plan provisions that are being included in the new official plan. But I can certainly look into adding to that to see what other points may have been raised on that topic.
Okay, thank you very much.
Mr. Mayor, if I can just clarify.
Yes, Jen.
In terms of the report coming back to council, I think we're planning on having the report to council February 22nd, and then come back if there's any additional comments on the 8th, and then get our comments off to the county. So the first report you see will be in the next agenda.
Okay, thanks for the clarification. Okay, I need a motion to receive the consent items. Sherry, seconded by Donna. All those in favor? Carried. Okay, we have no petitions. Council updates. Donna. Council updates, Donna.
Okay,
Okay, sorry.
you got to me fast. The library board at our last meeting started to make plans for creating a legacy document for the new board for the next term of council. And we do this at the end of every term, and it outlines the things that we've accomplished and what we hope a future board would be able to accomplish. So that was most of the conversation at the last library board meeting. I'm sure that everybody is aware of the rec. I guess we're just sitting in as observers for the 5 to 7 or 7:30 delegations tomorrow night regarding the ice allocation policy. I'll just say that I've received numerous phone calls, and there is a lot of concern in my ward about the policy. So hopefully all council members will be able to be there and listen. And Police Services Board, at our last meeting, we did have a conversation about the Speed Awareness Board. We know that we have to wait until the budget is officially approved. But in the meantime, Tanya and Rick, along with some OPP input, they're researching the best type of board for us and the most easily manageable. There's one that's just battery operated, but apparently the batteries only last for 2 weeks. So we didn't think that would be very efficient to be sending somebody out every 2 weeks to change the battery. So it's likely going to be a combination of solar and battery, but they're working on that to get the best fit. And then they'll take it back to the Police Services Board. And the link, I only have part of January stats, as all it seems to be available. They come from the city. So January the 3rd to the 11th, Route 31, 53 riders, Route 32, 10 riders. I'm sure this is because of the cold. January 10th to the 14th, Route 31, 70. So it has gone up, and Route 32, 17. So it's going up gradually. That's all, thanks.
Thank you very much, Donna. Sherry?
Thank you, through you. I am on the Awards and Bursaries Committee at the county and wanted to pass along information that we are cautiously optimistic in having an in-person awards ceremony at the Cavan Monaghan Arena on May the 27th. We're looking for nominations for 2022. The awards will be presented for both 2020, which we received, but it was canceled because of COVID, and one per category for 2022. There were also multiple great nominations in 2019, which the committee chose to include in nominations for 2020. Talk about confusing. A list of those already nominated will be sent to the clerks to jog our memory, as it were. If we can't meet in person again this year, there is a plan to do it virtually later in the year. So get your nominations in for 2022, please, for Selwyn. On the business side, there are a couple of businesses who have chosen to stay closed for renovations, etc., during these slow times. Two of them are the Market, which opens March the 5th, and the Fork in the Road is going to open again March the 11th. Lakeborough Osteopathy has opened in the Shamong Medical Center. They offer naturopathy to treat underlying causes of pain. The Haley's location on Queen Street in Lakefield is still for lease. And that is my report.
Thank you very much, Sherry. Anita?
I don't have a whole lot to report. We did have our Accessibility Advisory Committee meeting at the end of January, as well as the Heritage Committee. Heritage Week is coming up February 21st to 27th. There won't be any in-person events, but staff are working on doing some like virtual or social media stuff on our Facebook page. So the committee is providing some input, and so we'll see what happens.
Thank you, Anita. I'll just a couple of things. So first off, Sherry and I had an opportunity to attend Roma virtually. We had two presentations that we did, one on long-term care and one on health. And Sherry did a really, really good job in terms of both of those, but also making the case for our doc recruitment issue. There was a lot. We got to hear from many of the political leadership, including the Premier and the Minister of Health and Deputy Premier. The Minister of Housing took the opportunity to announce the third wave of the modernization grants, which I think Lane spoke to in our budget meeting, that we were successful on that. Housing was a big issue discussed through much of the conference. And if you didn't get a chance, you may want to take a look. The province tabled a report. You may remember that they struck a task force to take a look at housing. They issued that report today. So if you get a chance, I'm sure our planners have it to take a look at as well. In terms of ORCA, the province posted the second phase of the new regulations to do with the legislation that was passed. It basically doesn't make a lot of changes. There are more instruments to ensure transparency in the budget process between the conservation authorities and their member municipalities. And so those are open to comment right now. In public health, one of the things that we're able to do in a part of our township in Lakefield is wastewater surveillance, because we have a wastewater system. And so our surveillance indicates that that our levels have dropped. So the evidence of COVID has come down from where it was at the beginning of January, but is still significantly elevated as compared to what it was at the beginning of December. So we peaked, we seem to be on our way down, but we haven't come all the way down. This is a good tool that's being used across the province. It's used in the city of Peterborough, obviously because they have the wastewater surveillance. It has the advantage over testing in that it's comprehensive. It's not where somebody has to present themselves. You get to see a whole population base at the same time. The province is in the process right now of a 3-phase reopening. We're into that first phase now. We should be entering in the second phase shortly. The science table put forward a report last week that indicated that that we should be seeing and continue to see a decline in cases, hospitalizations, and ICU, but they put a very important caveat on that, depending on the actions that we take. So the process by the province is seen as a positive driver to send things down, but that there's always the risk of a future increase. In terms of the county, we already touched on this. There's some big items that we're trying to deal with. The budget clearly is one. The new official plan, which Donna brought up, is another. And we have our we have our development charge bylaw, which is a big issue that we need to deal with as well. So we've got some big items that we're trying to get through. And I think that's my report. So with that, we're going to go back because our staff have been quite successful in getting us reconnected. So thank you very much, staff. And we'll go to the public meeting, and I'll turn to Per and ask him to formally announce the public meeting.
Thank you, Your Worship. I hope my mic is on. You hear me okay? Great, perfect. Okay, so tonight, the Township of Selwyn is holding a public meeting to consider a municipally initiated amendment to the comprehensive zoning bylaw for the Township of Selwyn in accordance with Section 34 of the Planning Act. The prescribed notice of public meeting was provided by a notice in the Peterborough Examiner, as well as we did provide notice by email to prescribed ministries and agencies. The notice is also available on the township's website. If a person or public body does not make oral submissions at the public meeting or make written submissions to the Township of Selwyn before the bylaw is passed, the person or public body is not entitled to appeal the decision of the council of the Township of Selwyn to the the Ontario Land Tribunal, nor can a person or public body be added as a party to the hearing of an appeal before the Ontario Land Tribunal, unless in the opinion of the tribunal, there are reasonable grounds to do so. So tonight's amendment is the Housekeeping Amendment. It was brought to council previously on December 7th, just for initial input from council. We're holding the public meeting tonight. My report of December 7th is included in tonight's report. It's pretty much substantially the same, no major changes. Just for anybody that is listening, the report is available, I'm sure, through the township's website, but there are no major changes to any of the permitted uses in any zone category, and there's no changes to the zoning schedules affecting any particular property in Selwyn. The amendments are primarily administrative or technical in nature, just to provide some clarity and some administrative ease in a few areas. There's no substantial changes to the township zoning bylaw that affect any conformity or consistency with higher level provincial policy or growth or plans. And I'll just draw the council's attention and to the public since the last meeting that we brought it just for council review. We changed one item, point number 15 in the report. We added the term development as defined in the provincial policy statement to a section dealing with the flooding hazard. We wanted to make sure that there was clarity in this section that when it comes to the flood hazard, I should clarify a little bit. The section was particularly prohibitive in development in the flooding hazard, which doesn't need to necessarily be the case if only a building permit is needed. The additional protections against or prohibitions against developing in the floodplain are only kick in when you have a planning application and provincial policy relating to planning applications are required to be implemented. So we just by adding this as defined in the provincial policy statement and talking to Rob Lamar before he left, it adds enough clarity in that section that it doesn't become prohibitive to issuing building permits in the floodplain, where the flooding hazard can be addressed through ORCA permits and raising the flood elevation and doing flood control measures on a property that is otherwise zoned and designated for development. So that's just this very small change there, just for our internal knowledge and administrative process there. The other section that we changed a little bit with council's input from last meeting was in regard to point number 16 and dealing with parking areas in the front yards of residences and pavement occupying a little bit too much or occupying all of the space. The point was raised that what about small residential lots with limited frontages? So we've decided to amend the section to read that it's 50% or 6 meters, whichever is greater of the front yard in a residential zone can be a parking space, aisle, or driveway. That may mean that in certain cases, these small lots will be primarily pavement, but they do have to have access appropriately to those properties. And then obviously with larger lots, you'll end up with greater protection of landscape space. So those are the two major points that we changed since the last meeting of December 7th. In terms of public comments, we got comments of no concern from Bell Canada, Kawartha Pine Ridge District School Board, and the City of Kawartha Lakes. The Autonomy Region Conservation Authority had some minor questions. They wanted some clarification. Those have been responded to. And we had a request from Mr. Richard Taylor, just requesting a copy of the planning report for tonight and the draft amendment as it's being presented to council tonight. Those have been provided to him. And those are my comments on this particular housekeeping amendment. So if there's any questions, I'll be happy to take those.
Okay, Chair, I'm going to get to council in just a minute, but this is a public meeting, so I have to formally ask, is there anybody in attendance who would like to speak in favor of these amendments? Madam Clerk?
There was no one registered to speak for or against the amendments.
So you answered my second question. There's nobody to speak against. Okay, we'll now go to council. I think Donna has a question.
Thank you very much. Through you to Per. I really like this housekeeping amendment for the zoning bylaw. I just had one question on number 14, and I must have missed it before. I don't know the difference between boathouses and boat sheds.
Yeah, through you, your worship. The idea behind the boat shed is it's just a smaller storage facility to store boat related equipment in that's maybe near the shoreline, as opposed to like a regular shed that would be yard equipment. This one's specifically a small storage shed for marine related equipment.
Have we always had that?
No, I through your worship, no, I believe it's a new provision that Rob wanted to include in the zoning bylaw amendment before he retired here.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Any other questions? I don't see any. I'll just make one comment of my own. I was really appreciative of the obviating the need for some small committee of adjustment minor variances that are routine in nature. That's going to really save time for our residents, and it'll also save costs for our residents. That some of these routine matters won't have to now actually have to have a formal minor variance. So I think that's a positive thing. And that's probably what, a half a dozen a year. Would that be a fair estimate that we probably obviated the need for?
Sorry, you hiccuped there a little bit with the sound. What was the question?
Okay, because of the changes, some of the routine minor variances that we had to deal with have now will no longer be required. And I was just saying that that's a savings in time, it's a savings in cost to our ratepayers. And I was wondering how many on average we would think, and I suggested it might be a half a dozen, but I was just wondering if that number is a reasonable number.
Yeah, certainly we will save on a few issues, especially with regard to there was a change with regard to decks and the way we calculate lot coverage for those. We'll certainly we won't require those minor variances anymore. So yeah, it could be in the neighborhood of half a dozen or a dozen or so where we get in the neighborhood of 60 to 70 minor variance application in any particular year.
And was there not also a change when we're on lot creation where we're having a division of lots that we wouldn't be required in routine circumstances? And like, right?
Yep, that's correct. Those will affect zoning bylaw amendment applications. We'll certainly reduce that in applications for consent where new lots get created that need to be rezoned. That'll just happen automatically going forward, provided the new lots meet the requirements for lot area and frontage, and likewise for lot additions or boundary adjustments. Some new sections have been introduced that'll sort of just automatically take care of that, provided that the zoning standards are met within our bylaw for the change of lands. So that will save on that administrative process for sure.
And save the applicants some money as well.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. So colleagues, what I need is a motion to approve that and then send it to the bylaw section. Donna, move that. And seconded by Anita. All those in favor? Carried. Okay, we will now revert to other new and unfinished business. And we have a notice of motion from the deputy mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you, I did have a seconder, but he's MIA. So to put it on the table, can I have a seconder, Donna? Thank you. So the gypsy moths were present in Selwyn townships last year. Some places in the township more prevalent than others. And who knows what the spring is going to bring. I just wanted to make sure Selwyn's on the radar if the province does decide to proceed with spraying or other methods to deal with the issue. And I've always felt that it was the province that should be the ones dealing with this, and I'm glad to see they're stepping up to the plate.
Okay, we have a motion duly seconded. Any questions? All those in favor? That is carried. Okay, colleagues, does anybody else have any other unfinished business or new business? Not seeing any, we'll go to the bylaw section and then we'll go to closed, okay? So there's a number of bylaws. These are items we've dealt with either at this meeting or at a previous meeting. I'll look for somebody being willing to move those. Anita is willing to move them. Donna will second them. All in favor? Those are carried. And so we'll do the confirming at the end of the closed session. Is that the way, or should we do it now?
Yes, we could just have a motion to go into closed session.
Okay.
And then-
Sherry? Yeah, and then we'll do it coming out. Okay, and then Donna second it. All those in favor? Okay, colleagues, if I got this correctly, we're going to sign out of Zoom. You should have all been provided a phone number to dial in. It is, what time is it?
It's about 5 after 6.
Okay, so let's get back at 10 after 6, okay? Thank you. See you there.